All right, welcome back. Episode 7 of the Young Old Heads podcast. We're excited to have everyone back here for another episode talking about cards. I'm here with my co-host Max, aka Cards Max. How you doing, Max?
I'm doing well. I'm ready to jump right into it. We have a special
Yeah,
guest today.
yeah, we do. Well, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Tommy, at aka TV Sports Cards. We're excited this week, Max. We've gotten a really good response the last couple of weeks to a new logo that we've came up with for the podcast, and we're here right now with the artist behind the genius behind the logo, Charles LaBonge. Charles, how you doing, man?
Oh man, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm happy to join you guys on a beautiful Sunday morning over here in LA, and I'm ready to talk some cards with you guys. I'm so excited.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, we this is our second straight week where we got a 3 time zone podcast going on. You're out there in LA. You want to tell the people what you do and kind of what you collect?
So I am a designer by trade and a little bit of an artist, designer artist, do multimedia everything. I like to collect Dodgers straight up. I'm an LA cat through and through, so I don't really dabble in any other teams like that because I don't really know them that well, like unless
Yeah,
it's a huge name, like Tatis, Acuna, all that stuff. But
yeah,
Dodgers, if they wear in blue, then or if they're in blue now, so like Freddie, Trey Turner, like I would collect their old cards. But
yeah. So
so
yeah, you wouldn't. So your strategy with guys they pick up like vets, you would collect their older rookie card stuff, not their Dodger blue uniform stuff.
Well, when Betts came to the team, that was like the height of my collecting phase. And
Yeah,
so I was too impatient to wait for Dodgers cards of his. And like, what was it? Series 2 of 2020 was when he came out.
yeah.
So I just I was saving up for his rookies and stuff. And then now they've taken off and I kind of missed the boat on that. But
Yeah, I remember we. So for the listeners back home, I am a huge Giants fan, as everyone knows. Charles is a huge Dodgers fan. We, came together early on in both our times. I think on Twitter in like 2020, and just kind of linked up. We were in some group chats together, just as like young guys who are collecting baseball stuff. So Max, you want to tell the people what our inspiration was behind the logo and kind of what our ideas were we threw to Charles?
Yeah, so I want to make sure it's 1955 Bowman. That's
Yes,
correct?
1955 Bowman.
So the 1955 Bowman has the stylization of each card in a television set. I am remaking the pose of Mickey Mantle's card, while Tommy is redoing Willie Mays' position on his card. And the red with the logo is from Topps Chrome. And I thought the clashing of that, give the ideas to Charles. He works his magic, and it truly is magic because it takes a lot of innovation with that. And we have this masterpiece of a logo right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, Chuck, I really want to say that like the ideas we gave to Charles were very unstructured. We were kind of just like 1955 Bowman, but we kind of like that design. So Charles, you want to say like kind of like what your thought process was with like how you try to mix in what we were trying to give you?
oh man, to be honest, that my thought process was almost as crazy as yours. I was just thinking like, what can we do to make it different? And like you've been talking, when we talk, like I appreciate you enjoying my art and my art style, and to be able to actually do one for you now is like it was a really big deal for me. And it was also a big challenge to to take the card format, squeeze it to the profile picture format, and also keep the integrity of the 55 Bowman, which
Yeah,
I thought we did a good job. Your guys' poses were incredible.
yeah,
And I really enjoyed like building you guys up. And then when I took a step back to look at it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's Tommy and that's Max right there. That's pretty good, I think. So it was fun for me. It was a good challenge. Max, thanks again for pointing out the red logo. I think that was perfect.
yeah.
It holds, it looks great, it's amazing. So it was
Yeah.
just such a fun process.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm glad you had as much fun with it as we did because what me and Max are trying to do with this podcast and what we kind of wanted to get represented with the logo is just like that we have a lot of deep respect for the history of the hobby. In like 1955 Bowman, I think is one of the more iconic designs. I'm not going to say it's the most iconic. People have their own thoughts on that, but trying to merge that with the Topps Chrome logo font kind of thing with like the new era, the fact that we want to like acknowledge and respect the history of card collecting while, trying to bring a new perspective to it and kind of merge the two waves of collecting is kind of what we were going for. And I literally can't imagine a better looking logo than what you came up with. So I'm internally grateful for you, man. And whenever we make a Young Old Heads merch, you'll be the first one to get it. And we will be making shirts. So if anyone wants a shirt and wants me to include you in the order, just hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at TV Sports Cards. We'll make it happen. But Charles, you have another hobby that I think is really interesting and one that you have just began to merge a little bit into card collecting as well. So you're into cars, vintage cars. Do you want to tell the people what the backstory is with your hobby with vintage cars?
Yeah. So it was kind of like, well, in January of 2021, my dad unfortunately passed away.
I'm sorry.
But thank you. But it's okay. It's okay. It's you grow. There's a lot of growth and everything. But one thing he did leave for me was his 1971 Chevrolet Impala convertible, which is just this. It's 19 feet long. It takes up the entire garage. It's just this huge boat that like isn't economically like sound at all, like in today's age, especially with the gas prices. But it's a beauty to drive. And so I just love cruising through LA, and like it's just my therapy for me. And so most of my money was going to caring for the car. And so that's where my cards kind of took a little bit of a pause or a plateau. And then just a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh man, I wonder if they ever just, made car cards or something. And then I looked it up, and in 1976, they actually made cars of 1977. So this is the same car I have, just 6 years younger. This is a 77 Impala.
Yeah.
From the 76 tops, I believe, right? This is
So for the people listening, Charles is holding up a 1976 tops Impala Coupe card, which is honestly really cool looking. It looks very 70s. The design is sick. Charles, the reason why I love this and what me and Max kind of talk about is like that's something I do all the time on eBay. Is just like anything that I'm interested in, not related to cards, like any sort of artist, musician, like any sort of anything that I'm interested in, I'll just see if they have cards. And I love your passion for your vintage, your car. What is it called again when you're like redo cars?
Restoration.
Your restoration of the vintage cars with hey, cars take up a lot of space. Cards with a D, they don't take up that much space. Do you plan on picking up any more or anything?
Most definitely, yeah. I'm trying to reevaluate how I collect, mainly because Corey Seager was my favorite player on the Dodgers, and I spent a lot of money on his cards, and I was really excited. And then when he left to Texas, it just broke my heart. And like I know the money and everything, all of that aside, like I said, I can't get around it. Like he's not on the Dodgers anymore, so I don't have that attachment to cards like that. So I'm trying to redirect towards honestly, like vintage would be like one great avenue, I think, because that's established. Or like bigger players like Mookie, who's going to be in LA for the foreseeable future, and Kershaw, who's at the latter half. Even if he does go somewhere for 1 year, I mean, like I know that he's a Dodger for life. So
yeah, for sure. I think I would love to see what future vintage stuff you pick up, because I think vintage stuff, especially the weird stuff like the cars and stuff, is just like that's just fun, man. Like that's just pieces of history, and it's really hard to like fault buying something like that for any amount of money. It's like this is an old thing. They're not making more of these. This is also connects with your your father, the car. I think that's what excuse me, that's what collecting is all about, and something that me and Max always talk about. But Max, do you have any questions for Charles about his Dodgers PC? I know your Yankees thought process is pretty similar to his Dodgers thought process.
Yeah. So when I'm trying to decide a player to collect, I want to ensure that they are on my team, and not just that, but they've been on my team for their entire career. And I try to also do this the few times that I do buy cards of the Knicks. But with the Yankees, there's a lot of changing and moving parts all the time. So when I was really focusing on who I want to collect, I was thinking, okay, either Gleyber Torres or Luis Severino or Aaron Judge. I am trying to get rid of, and not buy Didi Gregorius, Aaron Hicks, Mark Teixeira to an extent, because I knew, okay, these players signed or were joined in the Yankees not for their entire career. I don't want to risk them leaving. And of course, with Corey Seager was a Dodger for his entire career until going to the Texas Rangers. So I haven't had that sort of crisis with what do I do with my PC or my PC player after they change teams. I just try to avoid it by all means possible, but sometimes that can't be done.
Seriously, you got to play it safe when you can, but sometimes those GMs over at the teams are pretty ruthless.
Yeah,
and I think that even makes like Kershaw an even more attractive player, because Kershaw has already, not only has he already given the Dodgers so many years, if he happened to leave the Dodgers for any reason, he still has that legacy in Los Angeles to where there's still a deep attachment to probably a lot of fans and to the city itself. But once you have that sort of commitment to a team, it's hard to let go of it.
Most definitely. And it's interesting because Kenley Jansen is like another player who was on the Dodgers the entire time. But I think of his collection, like I still wouldn't buy his cards though necessarily.
Yeah.
Just because he had a huge impact in LA, but just not enough for me in the sense that like compared to Kershaw. But they're both lifelong Dodgers up until this point.
And part of it is a balance between the two. One of my first real like PCs was Dellin Betances, over hulking reliever for the Yankees, and really, the dominant setup man for the longest time. And I loved him growing up in high school, and I love that he was from New York, that he was a Yankee, and then he became a Met, and that totally turned me off. I'm glad I wasn't like totally like invested in him from an emotional or financial standpoint, but seeing a homegrown player leave is just always heartbreaking. Even if it's not like a guy like Kershaw to where his stuff is of maintaining value no matter what, especially when it's lower PC guys and there's not too much of a market to offload it or not even many fans, it gets more difficult.
Oh, for sure. I have a lot of mid-level relief pitchers that were on the Dodgers just because I love the team. So I want cards of everybody. So
yeah,
I got a Mother's Day parallel of AJ Pollock now that I don't know what I'm going to do with.
Yeah, I feel that with the Giants, like when they were winning rings, I was obsessed with their relief pitchers. Like Jeremy Outfelt is a name that I just like. That dude was so nasty, and we would never have won those rings without him. But it's like, should I really be spending money on his cards? Probably not. Like they'll be around for like I can pick those up whenever in the future if I really want to and have the more capacity to do so. But what you guys were just talking about made me think about something that I sometimes tell people, which is about this metaphorical line that I have for guys if they contribute enough to my team that warrants me picking up a couple cards of them. For me, I'm now realizing talking to you guys, my bar is so low. My bar for like contributions to my favorite teams that you have to make for me to pick up a card or two of your stuff is very low. I call it the D'Angelo Russell line. It's for the Warriors. So if he was only on the Warriors for about like a few months and ended up getting traded for Wiggins, but he is the bar for me. If you contribute more than D'Angelo Russell contributed to the Warriors, I will buy some of your cards. Some guys I want to specifically shout out that I don't think you guys would collect if you were fans of the teams that I'm fans of. Cody Ross. Who's another good one? Well, the Warriors have a bunch of guys like Sean Livingston, probably is like the equivalent of like a middle reliever for basketball. He was amazing. Would not have won the rings without him, or like David West. So that's me. My bar is much lower than your guys' bar, but I know that I respect the way you guys collect, and I think having these like reflections all the time about, do I really want to keep holding this card? Do I really still want this card? Is stuff that you should just always ask yourself as a collector in general, for sure. But Charles, we haven't talked enough about your art, so I want to bring up something that you did in 2020. Max is a huge Project 2020 head. He was really into it, but I will say the coolest cards I've seen that were created in 2020 were by our man right here, Charles LaBonge. So Charles, you want to tell us about your project that you did and kind of what you did and some of your favorite ones?
Oh man, yeah. So I actually got the display right in front of me. So that was like my first big project. I had just finished college at the University of San Francisco up by you.
Go Dons.
Yeah, we're going to run to the NCAA tournament next year, hopefully. But so that was like my first big project. It was I don't know what it was. I saw somebody's Bob Gibson card and I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool to just recreate. you know? And
Yeah.
so I have done that before. Like my first illustrations that I did were athletic sports illustrations. It was of DeMar DeRozan when he was on the Raptors, since he's
Nice.
my favorite player. So I had an experience with, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say he's an LA guy, big LA guy.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, LA guy all the way. I got his high school jersey too from Compton High, so it's all the way. So I had some experience like building people on Illustrator like that, and so I just did it, and then I don't know what it was. I just figured like why not print this out and put it together, and I posted it, and it kind of got some traction, and then it wasn't until I did Tony Gwynn was my second card, and like there's a lot of big fans of his on Twitter, so that's when I really immersed myself into the community. I would say like I was in the community, but that's when my name really kind of spread around to a
Yeah.
certain section.
Yeah.
And so I just rolled off that momentum, like the excitement of the feedback that I'd get from people. I just keep going, and so it's and obviously I saved the Dodgers for last because I just wanted to make sure that they were the most special. But
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think your cards are very beautiful cards. What's your website called, just for people back
thank
home?
you. Yeah, it's Charles LaBonge Design. So mynamedesign.com. It's
Cool.
available on my Twitter, which is at Clabo8, which is a little bit more.
No, we'll put it all in the description of the episode,
Awesome.
so people will be able to find it. But this is really unique because you literally made these cards. These cards are physically printed. Do you want to tell us about like what's the process from like idea to create the design to printing, and what was like the biggest hurdle for you along the way? Like what is that like?
It was a really good lesson for me in terms of the design process from idea to production. So I'd start with a little sketch, and then I'd see how I can incorporate different elements of like my little splash that I want to put on the card, and then I'd excuse me, I just hit the ground running on Illustrator. So the toughest part was honestly producing the cards themselves, because if sometimes the printing, I'd print them and then I'd have to glue them to some cardboard, and like anywhere in that process, the glue could be too much and stain the paper, or when I'm cutting, like the ruler slips and then I lose 6 cards on that one sheet. And so it was just it was fun, and it was super awesome to like put the whole process together, but it was a lot of work. So
Yeah, damn man. I that's some real meticulous work, and that's why I think it really comes through though. Like I think I have 4 of your cards. I have the Big Red Machine one with Joe Morgan and Johnny Bench. I got the Willie McCovey and Will Clark, and I'm trying to forget what the last one is. But these cards feel real. They feel like any other Topps produced card. So whatever you're doing, making them, I know it takes a lot of work from you, and I just want to say that really comes through. And I think that, you know, I would love it if you kept doing them. I don't know if you have any thoughts on doing more cards in the future, but like, I know if like LEDX, if we're ever trying to do some like design stuff or anything cool with like partnerships, I'm definitely going to hit you up first because I respect what you did. And I really encourage, do you have any more of these cards sitting around, or are they kind of all gone and sold?
100%. No, I have all the Project 2020 cards. Those have been dispersed pretty much. I think I still got like one Willie Mays card. If you don't have it, man, I'll have to send it to you.
Oh yeah, I need that, dude, for sure. I would love that.
I have actually a Willie Mays and I have a Don Mattingly. So Max, I could just send that one to you if you want.
That would be very cool.
That would be sick.
Secure. Those are secure guys who have already had their careers, and there's no problem. So those are all sent out and spread out throughout the country, which is really fun to think about, like that wherever those cards have landed. But those Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan ones and the Willie McCovey, I have a ton of those left. I have them available on my eBay, which is through my website too, which we can link up.
Yeah, we'll link it out for sure. I want to give one quick shout out here to our homie Mitch at IMO Mitch.
Oh, yeah.
He's an absolute legend. He actually was the first guy to tell me about your stuff. He was like, yeah, man, I've been like kind of, I don't buy Project 2020, but this guy Charles has been making cards and I think they're just really cool. Like if he becomes a famous artist, I'm going to keep buying these because like they're really cool cards and they're his first kind of thing. And I'm like, that's dope. And then I found out you're my age and like kind of have a similar thought process on things, man. So I'm so glad that we were able to link up and connect in the card world, and that we were able to work together on this logo thing, because I think that's what the hobby's all about, man. It's all about, becoming friends with people, figuring out if there's anything outside of cards that you guys can do together, and like helping each other out. So I think you're a great representation of that, Charles. I appreciate you, man.
Oh, the sentiment feels the same for you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity and being able to connect with some people that I made friends with in a community that was so actually crucial for me at the time in 2020, especially. Like all that stuff is really fun.
Actually, real quick, if you don't mind, like I want to kind of talk about that if you're down. Like I was living at home in 2020. I was we had both just graduated. We're the same class. Like that was not where I wanted to be after graduation, man. Like that was never my plan. I was not trying to live at home ever again. Like I wanted my own place. I was really down. Like I was not in a good place mentally. And once I got back into cards, I was like, I'm gonna start going through my binders again. Let's see what I got here. And finding Twitter, finding like you guys, like you, Logan, Mitch, even our boy Griff. Shout out Griff. Shout out Mason. Just like people like that, and like the hobby in general, like that really helped me out. And like I don't think I would have ever like gotten to where I was and felt like as good about where I was in my life without those guys around me. And like our conversations, we just like Twitter DMs till like 1 a.m. and just kind of like shooting the shit about whatever, man. That was a really important time for me, at least.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was that connection that we had, and like just to be able to like jump in the rabbit hole of cards together was like really fun time.
For sure. Max, you have any thoughts on that before we let Charles go here?
I just love the multifacetedness of Charles, your collecting and really life living hobby diversity. And I'm glad that cards have bound us together.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's so kind of you.
Well, Charles, this won't be the last time you're on the podcast. We'll be doing projects together in the future, I'm sure. And if whenever you're doing something cool, let us know. We'll promote it on here. So I appreciate you, dude. And I hope you have a good rest of your weekend.
Likewise, guys. Thank you so much for having me. We'll be in touch.
For sure.
Thanks for coming on, Charles.
Yep. I'll see you, Charles.
Take care.
You too.